Have you ever seen a woodpecker hammering away at a tree? They peck at speeds of up to 20 times per second, hitting the wood with a force over 1,000 times that of gravity. If we did that, we'd get a serious concussion. So, how do these tiny forest drummers pull it off? It's all thanks to their incredible built-in safety gear. First, their skull is made of thick, spongy bone that acts like a shock absorber. Second, they have a special tongue that's so long it wraps all the way around their brain, cushioning it with every single impact. Think of it as a natural seatbelt for the brain. Finally, they blink a split second before each strike, using their inner eyelid like a pair of safety goggles to protect their eyes from flying debris. Nature's engineering is just amazing, isn't it? If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like and subscribe for more cool facts. Have you ever been walking through a forest and heard that unmistakable sound? Tap, 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 tap. That rapid-fire drumming is the signature sound of one of nature's most incredible engineers, the woodpecker. But what's all that pecking about? Is it just for show? Well, get ready, because the world of woodpeckers is way more fascinating than you might think. First and foremost, woodpeckers peck for food. Their main diet consists of insects, grubs, and larvae that live just beneath the bark of trees. Think of their beak as a specialized multi-tool. It's strong enough to chisel away wood, but it's also sensitive enough to feel the vibrations of insects moving inside. Once they've located a tasty meal, they use their incredibly long, barbed tongue to snag it. Some woodpecker tongues can extend several inches past their beak, coiling up inside their own skull when not in use. It's like having a built-in fishing rod right in your head. But they're not just looking for a quick snack. Woodpeckers are also expert home builders. All that pecking isn't just about demolition, it's about construction. They excavate cavities in trees to create safe, snug nests for raising their young. These cavities are a critical part of the forest ecosystem. Once the woodpecker family moves out, these ready-made homes are often taken over by other birds like bluebirds and owls, or even small mammals like squirrels and bats who can't create such shelters on their own. So, in a way, woodpeckers are the original landlords of the forest, providing essential housing for the entire neighborhood. And finally, that drumming isn't just about food or shelter. It's also about communication. Woodpeckers don't sing beautiful songs like robins or nightingales. Instead, they drum. That loud, rhythmic tapping is their way of marking territory and attracting a mate. It's like their version of a social media post saying, "Hey, this tree is mine," or "I'm single and ready to mingle." Each species even has its own unique drumming pattern, a distinct rhythm that other woodpeckers can recognize from a distance. Now, you might be wondering, with all that head banging, how do they not get constant headaches? I mean, some species can peck up to 20 times per second. That's like a tiny jackhammer hitting wood at 15 kilometers per hour over and over again. The secret lies in their amazing anatomy. They have several built-in shock absorbers. Their skulls are made of thick, spongy bone, and there's very little space for their brain to rattle around. Plus, a special muscle. Have you ever seen a woodpecker going to town on a tree? It's like watching a tiny, feathered jackhammer. They can peck up to 20 times a second with a force over 1,200 times that of gravity. If a human tried anything even remotely similar, it would be an instant concussion, a serious brain injury. So, how on earth do these birds do it? What's their secret to avoiding a permanent headache? It's not just one thing. It's a whole suite of amazing biological adaptations working in perfect harmony. First, let's talk about their skull. It's not your average bird skull. It's thick and spongy, especially in the front and back. Think of it like a built-in football helmet. This spongy bone acts as a shock absorber, diffusing the force of each impact before it can travel to the delicate brain tissue. But a good helmet is only part of the solution. The real magic starts with their beak. The woodpecker's beak is incredibly strong, but also has a bit of elasticity. The outer layer is made of hard keratin, while the inner layer is more flexible bone. This design allows it to absorb some of the initial shock. But here's the genius part. The upper and lower parts of the beak are slightly different lengths. This uneven structure helps to divert the impact forces away from the skull and down through the bird's S-body, kind of like a crumple zone in a car. Now, for my favorite part, the tongue. A woodpecker's tongue is insane. It's super long, sometimes wrapping all the way around the back of its skull and anchoring near the nostril. This isn't just for snatching insects deep inside the wood. This whole structure, called the hyoid apparatus, acts like a seatbelt for the brain. When the woodpecker pecks, the muscles around this apparatus tense up, holding the brain snugly in place and preventing it from sloshing around and hitting the inside of the skull. It's a natural built-in safety harness. On top of all that, there's the brain itself. A woodpecker's brain is very small and tightly packed inside the cranium. There's very little cerebrospinal fluid surrounding it, which means there's less space for it to move and build up momentum during an impact. Its orientation inside the skull also helps to distribute the force over a larger surface area, reducing the pressure on any single point. So, a small, tightly packed brain with minimal fluid is actually a huge advantage. Let's not forget their neck muscles. Woodpeckers have incredibly strong and well-developed neck muscles. Just before impact, they contract these muscles to create a very rigid line from the beak through the head and down the spine. This ensures the force. Have you ever watched a woodpecker hammering away at a tree and thought, how does it not get a massive headache? Or worse, serious brain damage? These birds can peck up to 20 times per second, with each impact delivering a force over 1,000 times that of gravity. If we tried that, we'd be out cold. So, what's their secret? Today, we're diving into the incredible biological engineering that makes woodpeckers the ultimate headbangers of the animal kingdom. First up, let's talk about their skull. It's not just any ordinary bird skull. It's made of a special kind of bone called spongy bone. Imagine a crash helmet, but instead of foam, it's filled with a dense mesh-like network of bone. This structure is fantastic at absorbing and dissipating the shock waves from each peck. The outer part of the skull is hard and dense, while the inner part is more porous and spongy. When the woodpecker strikes the tree, the force travels through the beak and into the skull, where this spongy bone acts like a built-in cushion, protecting the delicate brain inside. It's a natural shock absorber that's far more advanced than anything humans have designed. But the skull is only part of the story. The real MVP here is something you might not expect. The woodpecker's tongue. Their tongue is ridiculously long, sometimes up to 3 times the length of their beak. But it's not just for snatching insects from deep within the wood. When it's not in use, the woodpecker's tongue and the bone that supports it, called the hyoid apparatus, wraps all the way around its skull. It goes up through the right nostril, over the top of the head, and around the back of the skull, finally anchoring near the forehead. This creates a sort of natural seatbelt or harness for the brain. When the bird pecks, this tongue and bone structure tightens. holding the brain securely in place and further dampening the vibrations. It's like a built-in safety system, ensuring the brain doesn't rattle around inside the skull. Now, let's get into the physics of it. It's not just about linear force, the straighten impact. A huge danger is rotational force, the twisting and turning that can tear brain tissue. Woodpeckers have a few tricks to minimize this. First, their brain is very small and tightly packed inside the skull. There's very little empty space, which means less room for the brain to slosh around. Think of an egg in a jar. If the jar is full of liquid, the egg is more protected than if the jar is half empty. Second, the way they strike the tree is key. They peck in a straight, linear motion, and the shape of their beak helps direct the force in a straight line, avoiding the dangerous twisting motion. This precise, controlled movement is crucial for their safety. So, to recap the woodpecker's incredible survival kit, you have a thick, strong beak to start the job, a spongy, shock-absorbing skull to act as a helmet, and a long, wrapping tongue that works like a seatbelt for the brain. Add to that a small, tightly packed brain and a pecking technique that minimizes rotational force. And you have a creature perfectly adapted to its high-impact lifestyle. The next time you hear that familiar drumming in the woods, you'll know you're listening to one of nature's most brilliant examples of violence. Ever wondered how a woodpecker can slam its face into a tree thousands of times a day and not end up with a massive headache or worse, serious brain damage? It's a question that has baffled scientists for years. Imagine banging your head against a wall at over 20 times a second. The forces involved are incredible, up to 1,400 gigaseconds. For perspective, a human can suffer a concussion at just 80 gigaseconds. So, what's the woodpecker's secret? For a long time, the prevailing theory was that the woodpecker's skull acted like a shock-absorbing helmet. It was thought that special spongy bone at the front of the skull, combined with other structures, cushioned the brain from the relentless impacts. It makes sense, right? If you're going to be a professional headbanger, you'd want some built-in safety gear. This idea was so popular, it even inspired the design of protective equipment for humans. From football helmets to black boxes in airplanes. Everyone just assumed the woodpecker had mastered the art of shock absorption. But recently, a group of scientists decided to take a much closer look. They weren't convinced by the old theory. So they brought out the big guns, high-speed cameras filming at thousands of frames per second and advanced CT scans. They filmed several species of woodpeckers in action, capturing every tiny detail of their powerful pecking. Then, they used the CT scans to create incredibly detailed 3D models of the birds' heads. By combining the video footage with the 3D models, they could precisely track the movement of the skull and, crucially, the brain inside it during each impact. What they found was a total game changer. The woodpecker's head doesn't act like a shock absorber at all. In fact, their analysis showed that the skull and beak move together as a single, rigid unit, like a stiff hammer. There's almost no compression or cushioning happening at the point of impact. If there were, the woodpecker would lose a lot of its pecking power, making it harder to drill into wood. Think about it. You wouldn't use a spongy hammer to drive a nail, would you? So, if the skull isn't absorbing the shock, what is protecting the brain? The answer is even more fascinating. The scientists discovered that the woodpecker's brain is incredibly small and tightly packed inside its skull. This snug fit means there's very little room for it to slosh around, unlike a human brain, which has more space to move and can slam against the inside of the skull during an impact. The woodpecker's brain is held securely in place. The small size and tight fit dramatically reduce the strain on the brain tissue itself. Furthermore, they looked at the orientation of the brain. The woodpecker's brain is elongated from top to bottom, which means the largest surface area faces forward. When the beak strikes the tree, the force is distributed over this larger area, kind of like how a snowshoe distributes your weight over the snow. This clever design helps to spread out the pressure from the impact, preventing it from Have you ever heard a woodpecker hammering away at a tree and wondered how on earth do they not get a massive headache? It's a question that sounds a bit silly, but it's actually leading to some incredible breakthroughs in science and engineering. Think about it. A woodpecker pecks at wood up to 20 times per second, with each impact delivering a force over 1,000 times that of gravity. If a human experienced even a fraction of that, it would cause a severe concussion. So, what's their secret? It turns out woodpeckers are nature's master engineers when it comes to shock absorption. They have a whole suite of amazing adaptations that work together to protect their brains. First, their skull is made of a unique type of spongy, plate-like bone that's incredibly strong yet lightweight. This structure is perfectly designed to dissipate the force of each impact, spreading it out so it doesn't all concentrate on one point. It's like having a built-in crash helmet. But that's not all. The woodpecker's beak is also a work of art. It's hard but not brittle, and it has a slight overbite, with the upper beak being a tiny bit longer than the lower one. This subtle difference is crucial. When the bird strikes the tree, the force is directed down and away from the skull, not straight back into it. It's a simple but brilliant bit of biomechanical design. Then there's the hyoid bone, which is probably the woodpecker's most bizarre and brilliant feature. In most birds, and in us humans, the hyoid is a small bone in the throat that supports the tongue. But in a woodpecker, it's extraordinarily long. It wraps all the way around the back of the skull, over the top, and anchors near the forehead. When the woodpecker pecks, this bone acts like a safety belt for the brain, tightening just before impact to hold everything securely in place and absorb even more of the shock. It's an internal, flexible harness system. And let's not forget the brain itself. A woodpecker's brain is very small and tightly packed inside its skull. There's very little room for it to slosh around, which minimizes the kind of rattling motion that causes concussions in humans. The brain is also oriented in a way that maximizes the surface area against the skull, helping to distribute the impact forces even further. So, why does all this matter to us? Well, scientists and engineers are studying these amazing birds to solve some very human problems. This field is called biomimetics, which is all about learning from and mimicking strategies found in nature. For instance, the woodpecker's shock-absorbing system is inspiring the next generation of protective headgear. Imagine football helmets or bicycle helmets designed with the same spongy bone structure and force-redirecting principles. Researchers are developing new materials that mimic the woodpecker's skull to create lighter, safer helmets that could dramatically reduce the risk of concussions in sports and other activities. The applications go even further. Ever wonder who the original architects of our world were? Hint, they don't use blueprints or hard hats. Today, we're diving into the incredible world of a tiny forest engineer that has been shaping our landscapes for millions of years. No, I'm not talking about beavers, although they are amazing. I'm talking about the unsung hero of the ecosystem, the one, the only, the earthworm. That's right. These little wigglers are nature's master builders. You might just see them as fish bait or garden helpers, but their work is monumental. Imagine this: every day an earthworm eats its own body weight in soil and decaying organic matter. They are literally eating their way through the earth, creating a vast network of tunnels. These tunnels are more than just worm highways. They are lifelines for the entire forest. They act like a natural irrigation and aeration system, allowing water and oxygen to penetrate deep into the ground, reaching the roots of plants and trees. Without these channels, rainwater would just run off the surface, leading to erosion and dry, compacted soil where nothing can grow. But that's not all. The earthworm's digestive system is a miracle of nature. As soil passes through their bodies, it gets enriched with nutrients and beneficial microbes. The waste they excrete, called castings, is one of the most fertile substances on the planet. It's like a superfood for plants, packed with nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. In fact, worm castings are 5 times richer in essential nutrients than the surrounding soil. Think about the sheer scale of their operation. In a single acre of healthy land, there can be over 1 million earthworms tirelessly plowing, fertilizing, and irrigating. They are the silent, unseen workforce that keeps our forests lush and our soils alive. They turn dead leaves and organic waste into life-giving soil, a process crucial for the entire food